Hey everyone, it's Cherie with another episode. Are we calling it an episode? I'm going to call it an episode of What's Going On with Your Comms. And of course, we are joined by our digital content lead, Morgan Tolliver. Hey girl, hey.
Hello.
And you'll also notice a new member of the Shannon Strategies team. Everyone, let's say hello. Give a wonderful welcome to Dejah Winston.
Hi.
Dejah is our new graphic designer. We are so excited to have her on the team. She has been rocking and rolling since she joined us, and we just wanted to have a little conversation today about graphic design and your processes. So right off the bat, Dejah, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you even got into this industry.
Yeah, so I've been doing graphic design since high school, a lot of media work since high school. And throughout from there to now, it's just something that came naturally to me. So in my own time, I started offering branding service or business branding services to newer businesses, especially like during 2020 when everyone was kind of getting on that wave of starting a new business. A lot of my practice had came from there, which just helped with my skills and being able to network and meet new people. And now basically I'm here in this space. So yeah.
And it's been great, like I said, having you here. One of the things that Morgan and I first noticed when we gave you assignments, like you understood the assignment immediately. Um, and a lot of people are not always able to do that. So I would love to just hear your process when you receive a task or a client is asking you to work on something. What goes through your head, first of all?
So first and foremost, I always research. So if you're asking me to do like a annual report or a sponsorship package, I always research to see what other similar companies have done with their annual report or what their sponsorship packages may look like. I even use Pinterest a lot, which is a scattered of different things, but sometimes you can like pull different design ideas from there, just so I can get a gist of what that is or what you're asking for, but then also following up with questions that I know I'm going to need. So definitely like what Tony you want to said, how are you going to, display this? Is it going to be print? Is it going to be digital? Is it going to be on social media? Um, just what colors, what fonts, what images, what information really needs to be in there, making sure I gather all of that. Um, I will say like a bulk of design work, and I feel like a bulk of like artist work in general is the pre-planning. So like having to come up with, okay, how I'm going to do this is actually what takes the longest because you're thinking about it first and foremost. Like that takes a lot of time. You're researching it and then like playing around to actually do it to see what works if it comes out the way it looked like in your head. Sometimes it does not. So then you have to switch and do something else. So I think a lot of the design work is getting to the point where I'm like, okay, this is exactly how I'm going to design this, and then following basically that theme after, like to complete the design.
Morgan, at one point you were doing a bulk of the design for many of our clients, as well as some branding for Shannon Strategies. You have a little bit of that experience as well. Now that we have Dejah on the team, I should say, like, have you noticed any differences or even like how clients are reacting to a lot of this work?
I mean, first and foremost, I'm just glad to have someone who's dedicated to graphic design. Like, I can do it, I can get it done for sure. But it's not, my field of expertise like it is Dejah's. And so there's already that separate level. I feel like not to speak for you, Dejah, but you just think like a graphic designer. You have that thought process. You know how things should be laid out and how things should look visually, what works and what doesn't. And it's more instantaneous for you than it is for me. I'm like, I need 10 different layouts to figure out. So it's going to take me a lot more time than it will someone who has that streamlined thought process already. And I think what I've noticed for you as well is just how easily you understand our clients' design styles. Like if we say, oh, they have a more playful brand or they have a more modern brand, like those words may mean nothing to somebody else. But to you, it's like, oh yeah, like that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a difference that I've noticed from my work and yours, but also just in general, having someone on board who has that thought process already in place.
Thanks, I appreciate that. It does seem instantaneous, but honestly, it kind of is like, it just takes a lot of time to, in my opinion, a lot of time to get to the point of like, I can sit down and actually do the design straight through. Um, but yeah, I appreciate that.
Now, when you see something that's really nice and you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. At least for me, especially when you're asking for feedback, I'm like, oh, this is cute, or this is like really well done. And I'm coming from a little bit of a background as a design editor for a magazine as well. So like all of us kind of have some skills here,
Mhm.
but one, don't ask me to put an annual report together because I'm going to be like, let me go to Canva and see what they have. Um, but when it comes to getting in the mind of our clients, and I feel like you also are expecting some feedback as well when you're like putting these drafts together. What are your expectations kind of going in? Like I hear you talking about the research and the planning, and then you present it to us. Is there like a little bit of nervousness, or you're kind of like, it is what it is, or you just roll with the punches? How do you handle that?
I'm usually pretty ready for feedback, especially if we are a team and we're collectively showing this as, even though, yeah, I designed it, this is still group work. So it's important to me to make sure, like, we all have a say so in that, of course. But I'm usually ready to be like receptive to what needs to be changed or like any suggestions or anything like that. Because I know like I probably didn't present something super perfect, you know what I'm saying? So um, at first, I will say like our very first design with the conference program, that had made me nervous because I was like under the impression that they wanted it a very specific way. And when I was trying to like utilize, I think it was like an image or something, actually was having a hard time. And I was up like late at night trying to figure out like how it's gonna work, how it's gonna look. I'm not rocking with the design. However, like this is what they want. So maybe this is it. And then I showed it. Morgan was like, basically like, no, this is not what they're, what we're looking for per se. And then after I got the free range, or after I got the confirmation to be more free range with my creativity, which is honestly something I probably should have asked. Then from there, it kind of was like, oh, okay, so I can pretty much do what I want, which was great. But like in that moment, I was nervous because I knew like I did not actually feel like great about that design. Um, but from then on now, I was kind of like, okay, the way you all kind of handled that situation, it made me feel safe to come and present my work and give solid feedback and criticism. Like I think the tone that you all set just makes it easier here on out to do that. So I have no worries with presenting the work and getting everybody's critiques.
And I think that brings up a really good point. I wonder if people who don't necessarily, work in graphic design or communications, like they don't really have an understanding of how a graphic designer works, but they may think, it's easier if we tell you A, B, C, D, this is exactly how it has to be done. This is exactly what we
Mhm.
want to see. But for you, is it easier to have free range, like to just have the ability to do what you need to do? Or is it easier to get those like very tight constraints and you can just build it however they want to build it and be done?
It actually depends on what's being done. So like an annual report is very specific to information. So I'll need to know like what's important for hierarchy reasons, and what needs to be displayed where and things like that. So those details will need to be told to me up front. How to design it per se, like the creativity, I absolutely do prefer free range because if you're not a designer, if you're not into it, like you might actually not know what you like. And I can present you something, if I have that free range, I can present you something really nice that is way better than what you thought you wanted. And it leaves room for also more options too, because even if it's like a serious toned thing, like it can still be done in a way that's super creative and engaging with who the audience is for, who the audience is. So generally, yes, I definitely prefer to have free range of creativity on projects.
Well, final question. When you're creating, I mean, you've trained to do this. But a lot of our clients have not been trained to do this or even been trained to look for specific things. Quite
Mhm,
often it's something that might be a bit more visceral, kind of a gut reaction on if they like it or not. Um, and we along the way sometimes have to kind of help our clients be like, no, no, like this is, as you mentioned, hierarchy, right? Like big and bold is what's going to, our eyes are going to draw to. We kind of read in an F shape or Z shape pattern, top down, left
mhm.
to right. You know, your eyes go down the page a certain way. Um, are there just general tips and best practices that organizations and companies should be mindful of when they are creating content across different platforms?
Yes, so, like, if you know that you are not a company or you are not a person who understands a lot about graphic design, I think, um, being ready to have like a pre-planning conversation might be more beneficial. So I can learn like what you need. I can ask the questions I need to ask, because you might not know what to ask me, but I know what to ask you. So being ready or making space to have that type of conversation before saying like, hey, this is what I need, yada, yada, yada. And then I go back and I'm about to design it. And then I'm like, oh, actually, I need to know like this, and this because of what you said. So I think pre-planning conversations are really helpful. Being mindful of bright colors. I think like organizations love to have like um, colors in their branding, which is fine, but also like just being mindful that some colors clash a lot. So like high yellows or um, greens and blues trying to be mixed together, or um, those like oranges or things like that. Don't always work well with other colors that are like general colors I'm probably going to use. Um, so just being mindful that not everything is going to be always in the brand, all the brand colors. Like sometimes we might need to omit the yellow, we might need to omit the orange because it's not working well with that blue. So just things like that. And then just being open to suggestions and things that I have to say because at the end of the day, like I am the expert. So like just being receptive to what I have to say and seeing how it plays out before like dismissing like idea or suggestion.
That's really, really good advice. I feel like I said that was final question, but I kind of want to pitch that over to you as well, Morgan, because you also have to create digital content as well. And so are there other, when we're talking about design, of course, graphic design and visual, but then how it lays out with like text or even video across different multimedia, how they work well together and any best practices and tips you want to share.
I mean, just on the design part alone, I think Deja brought up a really good point about the colors. I think keeping in mind that not everything within your brand is always going to be included or always going to work. So you should have some flexibility there. I think also we get clients or people who aren't necessarily familiar with graphics for social media and how that's much different than what you would have in a flyer or a poster or something that's more, a larger format. And so they want a ton of text or
Mhm.
they want to see a ton of images. And that's not exactly feasible when you're working in a tiny little square format that's going to be read on somebody's phone. So
Yeah.
I think just keeping in mind that you have to have some flexibility when it comes to social media graphics, and you have to have an understanding of how people are seeing your content. That has to be part of your thought process. It can't just be, this is what I want to see, this is what I
Mhm.
want, conveyed. There has to be an understanding of how other people are seeing it, and accessibility is a big part of that as well. So white text on yellow and things like that, like there has to be an understanding that it can't be read, it's not going to be seen, and ultimately you're going to harm your brand, you're going to harm your message even further if it's just hard to read or hard to understand. So you
Right.
want to have something that not only looks good but also works well to convey whatever information you're getting across.
All
Yeah.
great advice. And of course, great advice coming from our team of experts. And so it's always, you don't have to do all of this yourself in-house. You can always work with a group of amazing folks like ourselves at Shannon Strategies if you need that additional assistance. And we now offer more graphic design services. And so if you all were like, I wonder if they can do that. Yes, we can. As always, you should definitely follow us on social media at Shannon Strategy on Twitter, Shannon Strategies on LinkedIn, and we are also on Instagram now. Hey,
Mhm.
y'all. If you want to reach out for a consultation, you can reach us at team@shannonstrategies.com. And of course, visit our website at shannonstrategies.com. All right. Until next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.